We should have some background music, huh?
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, some nice hold music. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We will, thanks for joining us. We will just give it a minute or so or two to let people join. Nice to see everyone nice and punctual. It's great. Fabulous. We will record today's session. So for anybody, any of your colleagues that haven't had a chance to join, or you'd like to hang on some words that we talk about and go back to for future notice, we will record it. So we'll distribute the recording for everyone that's registered after anyway, but conscious of everyone's time. So we will go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is entitled How to Build a Global Travel Programme. So I've been really excited about this one, actually, because I'm joined by a couple of real kind of travel industry legends. So I will let Siiri and Jay introduce themselves shortly. I'm Laura Busby. I'm Commercial Director at Good Travel Management, a 190-year-old sixth generation travel management company that focus on putting people, planet and performance at the heart of how we operate. I'll hand over to Siiri first, and then Jay, and then let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get the show on the road.
Good afternoon here from Germany, from Frankfurt. My name is Siiri, and Laura, I have to be honest, I've never been called a legend, but I'll definitely be sure to share that with my colleagues. Maybe we can make something out of that. So yeah, Siiri. My name is actually of Estonian origin, just in case you were wondering. I'm Senior Director Sales at Lufthansa City Center International. We are a global TMC network, and I've been in the industry for more than 30 years. I actually had to count when I prepared this. I started once in the hospitality side of the industry, and since 2001, I've been with Lufthansa City Center International. The company is so cool that I actually stayed, although I decided first, I would stay for 2 years, but I've had the privilege to have different positions in the company. So I worked in product development and procurement, key account management, and I'm now holding the position in sales. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm handing over to Jay in the US.
Thank you, Siiri. Hi, everybody. This is Jay Ellenby. I'm president of Safe Harbors Business Travel, and we're located in Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. And yes, my job today is to give you perspective of what's happening in the US and how we partner with Good and also LCC. It's interesting. Yeah, there's something happened last week. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Rather interesting happened last week. And the Dodgers did win the World Series. I don't think we're here to talk about that, but some things took place. But Safe Harbors, we've been in business for just about 40 years now. And our focus has always been corporate, and more than half of our business is international. And that's why our relationship with Good Travel Management and LCC, Lufthansa City Center, has been absolutely fantastic. So I look forward to talking more about that moving forward.
Yeah, certainly the events of last week, Jamie. I had to add a load more questions in my mind earlier of what we're going to talk about. So it'd be an interesting time. So just as a bit of housekeeping, we'll aim to talk for around 35 minutes and give you a real good overview with some top tips on how to build a global travel program. And we'll open up for questions. And if you've got questions that you can think of as you go along, please do pop them in the chat. I'll try my best to keep an eye on them, but we will get to all of your questions, and we'll wrap up between 45 minutes and 60 minutes, depending upon the amount of questions that we have and how lively the conversation gets. But thank you so much to both of you for joining today. I think it's a really timely time to talk about building a global travel program. And just as to kind of set the scene, what do we mean by building a global travel program? So I think both for our business, Good Travel Management, and Safe Harbors in the US, we focus our energies on working with customers with a small to medium sized travel spend. And when we think about global, it's really about looking at travel spend that originates in varying markets around the world. And I think a lot of conversations that we have with customers and prospects in the sales world actually is, what spend have you got originating in different markets? Should you consolidate that into a global program? And if so, where do you start? And quite often our customers don't have anyone central dedicated in a global travel manager kind of role. So they lean on us in particular and the expertise of Lufthansa City Center to really make the process quite simple and lean on the expertise, because global travel is not a simple thing and one size certainly doesn't fit all. So maybe some of you might already have a global travel in place, but it needs some finessing in the world of headwinds of technology changes and borders opening and closing and environmental issues and wars. So there's a lot to think about and consider when you're looking at your global travel spend and how best to drive a program in a global way. So hopefully that sets a little bit of a scene for you. We always make the offer on these webinars that if you'd like a personal consultation with us on the back of what you've heard today, you'll have my direct email address. Please do reach out to me, and happy to always talk global travel, bringing in the experts that we have on today's webinar as we need to. So we're going to kick off today, and I'm going to go to Siiri first, just to give us a really good overview of Lufthansa City Center, who you are, and just a bit of, if you can just, Siiri, bring to life for us the power of the LCC Global Network, that would be great.
Yes, sure. So yeah, Lufthansa City Center, or we abbreviated with LCC, which I sometimes understand is not the best of the abbreviations and is sometimes associated with something completely different. But I can tell you, we've been there first. I think we weren't strong enough in marketing these three letters. So Lufthansa City Center is actually a global TMC network, and we've been in the market since 1991, so more than 30 years. The company has actually once been founded by Lufthansa German Airlines, and today they still hold some of the shares in our company, and they are helping us to drive the expansion, but otherwise, fortunately, stay out of the business because they have a whole big airline network to take care of. So we basically take the best of the Lufthansa world in our sort of company and drive the expansion. We have been very successful in 30 years of history. We today have 600 TMC locations throughout the globe in 108 markets. So the expansion has actually happened quite rapidly. And I think this was to everyone's surprise because the network was actually built primarily for our home market. But yeah, it's been quite a good ride in the last 30 years. We have throughout the globe today 6,500 staff, and we do make a global turnover, which I actually converted to pound sterling. So 5 billion pounds sterling we make globally. This is sort of our purchasing power that our combined network produces. So we actually work from the Lufthansa City Center side to assemble a network of the best entrepreneurs in the world. And I'm really, really happy that two of which I have actually here on the call. So Jay and Laura, who's hosting this session, they belong to companies that we have chosen to join our network because of the reputation and the strong management and strong positioning they have in their market. So we work really with the best local TMCs and assemble them in our network. Our network actually has a backbone in corporate. So corporate is the prime business we are facilitating and we are good in. This is really the strongest force. But we are also looking after other areas of travel. I'm sure many of you also have meeting and incentive requirements. So our service outlets throughout the world are also strong in providing meeting and incentive services. Some of them are also active in the marine and offshore field. And of course, we also provide leisure services, which sometimes are a nice addition to corporates. And I guess in these days, get a different exposure altogether. So we are, I think, a good source of and good provider for helping people to travel around the world with the best people that we have in the markets. Laura, do you want me to go on and talk a little bit about the power of the global network? Is that okay, or do you?
Yeah, I think the power of the network, Siiri, and probably yes. just to really compare that to our customers have a choice when they're looking at global program configuration. Do they go for kind of a one big mega TMC name above the door? Or do they go for a network model? So I think it will be good if you could kind of talk about the power of the network and how we think that can be a stronger solution for customers than the one big mega name above the door in every market?
Sure. So we've really taken 30 years, 3 decades to build an experts network. And why do we believe that the network approach and having that model of, for your provider being the best one? We see certainly that there are different requirements throughout the world and different kind of customers. I think the space we are operating is largely in the SME model. So we typically help companies in the mid-sized market to find a very good solution. Now, what we see is actually that there's certainly not that one size fits all solution. Now, that is certainly a solution for one size fits all is certainly out there, and we support that. But then again, we understand in our customer clientele that it really takes the approach to look at what is really required, what is important to you as a customer, where's your starting point, and of course, what are you trying to achieve? And when we have discussions with our customers to really look into what do you want to achieve and what are the components that are of important, what is working today well in your travel provision, then it oftentimes comes to an individual composure of the best solution. So I think we are very good in finding very flexible solutions for you and really make the program fit to what you require and what you need, and also make that fit to different types of travelers that we certainly have in different markets. So local and global requirements are different, and I think we differ quite a bit from the other players on the market, I would say. So, of course, we call them the megas. They typically have three letters, other TMC providers. But usually, what you get there is a solution that is already built, and either you fit in and you fit your program into the solution that's already there. It's actually difficult then to make adjustments. There are also players that are coming new on the market, other TMC models that somehow look and sound attractive when you look at the marketing side. But we also see that even though technology is on the rise and technology becomes so important, I'm sure we're going to talk about that. It's not just a good travel management program doesn't just rely on technology, but you really need to have the service facility behind which our network and our TMCs around the globe provide. We really understand what service means, and you actually as a customer decide how much of service and what type of services do you need. So we can do everything from a fully automated solution to something that is partially automated, and there will always be people behind that help your travelers along the way. We've certainly seen market disruptions over the last years that have been very severe. Laura, you were actually talking about a disruption this morning traveling to London, and I think it's really essential that you don't talk to acknowledge only a technology along the way, but maybe even have people to call when something is really not working well on your trip, which we've seen over the last years significantly rising. So I think essentially what we deliver from the Lufthansa City Center side is that we do cater to the SME market. We have flexible solutions, so we really take a moment to listen to you, to see what you want to achieve, and then to craft the right solution with a broad portfolio of technologies and tools that we can put into place based on what it is that you want to achieve, and also based on what the local markets require. So it's really not that one size fits all. We know the best technology can differ in markets, and I think that's where we are flexible enough through the help of the local TMCs to put that in place.
Yeah, really great point. And probably just to go back a little bit to when we talk about the SME market, in terms of global spend, what does the biggest LCC client kind of spend globally? Because I think it can be quite misleading that clients might think, when I really get my head around the global capability of the network, that the overall size of the customers is pretty big, but it's that fragmented spend in different markets that can sometimes sway how the program works.
Yeah, I think I mean, in terms of service capacity and so on, we certainly service customers of all ranges. We typically also don't go for the larger accounts, which I would say go 150 million plus. But of course, in the local markets, this is certainly something that many of our LCCs provide services to. Now, I think in terms of where are we starting, I think it needs to be seen first of all, what are the bigger markets? What is the travel spend to begin with? And does it make sense to consolidate it? I don't think that every travel program requires to be consolidated, but of course it does require to take a look at it and to actually understand the business that is transacted in the markets that you are responsible for, or that is under the roof of your company. So therefore, I would say our typical global customer starts at 15 million plus, but we've also had in the past companies that were smaller. And then our agencies, and this is particular the case between Safe Harbor and Good Travel Management. I know you're also servicing accounts bilaterally, so I think it's also always good to find a start, maybe just between 2 or 3 countries, which I know is in practice and I know we are going to hear about. So I think in a nutshell, we would look at all opportunities and would love to work with you just assessing, is that worth taking it to the next level, depending on what you know about your global spend today. So in a nutshell, I would say we work with all kind of sizes of companies. Would you yourself have a different view on that, Laura? How would you go about it?
No, I think that's spot on, and I think you've raised a really good point about the bilateral relationships. I know Jay and I will talk a little bit about later, but I think for us, what we've worked really hard at Good Travel Management is finding like-minded travel management companies under the Lufthansa City Center umbrella to go, right, do we trust you with our customer to give them that boutique level service that they get from us in the UK? And I think that's where it's worked superbly well with Safe Harbors, that I kind of feel like we're like work colleagues. I feel like we're part of the same organization, Jay, because we talk so much. And I think what we've done is really look at our customers and where they have significant spend in other markets, the US being a really obvious one that we've worked hard on, as well as Switzerland. We do a lot with Switzerland as well, and generally across Europe. But I think that's been really key, that those, if you spend under 20 million globally, the mega TMCs won't give you much love or attention. It's very much out of the box. And I think what we've done really, really well is just work those opportunities bilaterally to really give you great people, great service, great technology in each market, but still under that one global contract, with one global account management infrastructure and data reporting. So yeah, that's worked really well. But I think that's where there's less choice of the megas, as obviously the Amex purchase of CWT rolls on. There's less and less as they merge together. So it's quite interesting. This bilateral way of working across great TMCs is a real consideration for a lot of businesses out there with that kind of spend. So yeah, I just thought the spend piece was quite important there of when it's appropriate. But moving on slightly, Siiri, what are the real trends that you're seeing at the moment in the global travel landscape?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that all of us, do read and so on what's published. I think the good news, first of all, this is something we worried about the last 5 years. I mean, business travel remains essential for many businesses, and I hope that's what everyone on the call here is also seeing. Definitely, this is what we are seeing in the numbers. So especially in the SME field, there was a recent GBTA, so Global Business Travel Association. That's like the business travel reference for figures and so on, and they have said that the business travel spending will largely exceed the 2019 levels again, which is great. So business travel is back. I guess we were all worried that we need to do this, ever so often, and all of our staff needs to do that, and this is how we conduct business. We don't. So people want to fortunately travel, but of course there's a little bit of a new era starting. I think the shift is from the length of stay. I mean, mean, we all come from the time when you do, a one-day business trip, early out, very late in, and so on. And I think this shifts to multiple day trips. That shifts a lot, and that certainly has a lot of chances for us as business and travel management companies to really make sure that we provide the right services around that, because that's very, very different from what it was a while ago. Sustainability really becomes a driver, and I know, Laura, your team, and I also know Jay's team is looking into that. What can be done, I think, on the environment, but it's a bigger picture. Social governance, these issues do become important as legislation changes. So we need to have answers to that for you as corporate customers, to see what are your targets in that area, what do you have to achieve, what do you want to achieve in order to be attractive for staff, for example. I think there are answers that need to be given on how do we positively impact the environment and the bigger picture of our society. So I think while green travel programs, for example, have been sitting in the drawer for a while, these are now out, and we are actively pushing them into the market and helping our customers to become greener and probably have a lesser impact on when traveling on the environment. And then the changed demographics are a big issue as well. I mean, we have different type of travelers that we see today. It's not just the old force of travelers, but we have youngsters, who want to travel in a different way. They certainly want to take different ways of how they book their travel. We see how they connect, and that the reason for business travel is not just to conduct business, but also the opportunity to create connections, which is also something that Lufthansa City Center has always been big about. Creating connections, I think, creates business opportunities, and our younger generation, fortunately, even better understands that than us, which is good. And then there are different types of travel. I think women in business travel become more important. They have different requirements. I remember getting a questionnaire 20 years ago, what do women in business travel require? Nobody cared back then, but I think nowadays it does change, and does see a change in how the different, let's say, demographics want to travel and what that means for the travel service provision. So blended trips, for example, and keeping personal aspects in the business travel area of importance is something that we are seeing. So overall, I think there are lots of changes on the horizon, but then again, we have all been in travel long enough knowing that these changes will keep coming, and we will just adapt and make sure that you create programs for your travelers that really speak with all the individual people that you have on your teams, and that they really feel, the way I travel is appropriate to what I expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're so right. Like travel is an industry is such a resilient one. The close links with what's going on in the world and how that affects travel, you can just never be underestimated. So the industry will keep changing, evolving, and I think we're in a really interesting space when we welcome in a new kind of travel. We definitely see that in terms of the access to content and fares, that our traditional travelers will probably be more interested in staying at your bigger brands, your Hiltons, your Marriotts, and then we have a whole younger generation that are like, what about Airbnb? So it's really, really interesting in terms of the kind of content and fares and travel experience that a different generation are wanting. But that's great, Siiri. So what we're going to do is just give you some top tips. Top 5 tips on how to build a global program, and just spend a couple of minutes on those, and then we'll kind of come back to those at the end. But just to give you a bit of a flavor for where do you start, right? How do you start to think about building out a global travel program? So I'll kind of share these top 5 tips, and I'll lean on you, Siiri, here a little bit. So like the first one, and it sounds really obvious, but I talk to clients about this all the time, is language and market nuances. So we talked a bit about this earlier, Siiri, but can you give me some examples of how a customer will need to really consider language and market nuances, and why that's important when building out a global travel program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I mean, the language, and we see it basically all the time. Of course, it depends on what the company sort of culture is. Is it really a global company with a global approach where people are used to speaking English, or that one language could be German, could be Spanish, whatever, and the service facilities could be all in that language because that's a company language. But oftentimes we actually find situations where, of course, in Switzerland they speak German, whereas in the UK speak English, and in Spain they speak Spanish, and that's how the service provision should take place. And that's also how all the customer-facing interfaces, like a booking engine or a mobile app, they all need to have the right language. All the communication that is sent out needs to be in various languages, or just in that one unified language. That really makes a difference to understand. We really have customers of all types. Some just, all go with one language, which is mostly, of course, English, which is good and makes it fairly easy to roll out information, and makes it fairly quick. But of course, if you rely on the languages, one needs to understand which are they, what is really of importance, and how do you then drive the development of the program based on the different languages. The market nuances are probably far more difficult, I would say, and you really need local people to make you understand what that means, what is important to the people that travel. I come from Germany, and I freely will admit, we always think everyone is like the Germans. Well, it's not true. So, and I love that actually when we get together, with you, Laura, with Jay, and with all the people we have in the network. The nicest thing somebody has said to us is, you're not so German after all, which is good because people are different. And you need to understand how people tick. And that is really something you want to adhere in a global travel program, to understand which parts do you need to keep and need to cater to, and what are things that you can sort of overrule because it is okay to do that. So I think to find sort of the right balance there, and to adhere to language issues and market differences really make a fundamental difference when you build a program, and to have a conversation with experts from the market that can help you guide that, and not just one single source market, but really the local experts that we have in our network.
Yeah, and I steer clients with this. I've got one of our biggest clients that we're rolling out globally with at the moment, and I said to them, look, when it comes to the UAE, you really want to work with our partner in the UAE, because the expectations and the real difference locally on how they like to book, how they like to be serviced, it's very, very different, and you'd be disappointed because our guys based in the UK wouldn't quite get that. So it is just it often we will definitely advise and steer from our experience of what can we quite happily take and manage from in the UK, or where do we need a partner that really brings to life their expertise in their market, and we do that with and we think about things like time zones as well. So yeah, definitely a really important one, and one to really think about. So service and duty of care, probably leading on quite nicely from that, Siiri.
Yeah, I think in terms of service, I'm always surprised how you march into a customer conversation and think, yeah, I know exactly what you want, but actually when you listen to what's important to someone and how the company culture ticks and what's important to a company, there are large differences between we want everything digital to we want it fully serviced, only people to call, and ideally have the most personal contact. And I think it is essential not to just make judgments up front and think we all know what somebody wants. It's actually to listen, to see what are the service aspects that we need to maintain, to keep, and that we need to develop, and what are the aspects that are of lesser importance, and to really craft a program that is according to the culture of a company. And that doesn't mean that everybody wants a mobile solution or a booking engine solution, but it could be. And then the duty of care aspect, of course, becomes very important. We are all responsible for the staff that is traveling around. And of course, with what we've seen over the years, the disruptions that we see, we want to be sure that we yeah, can give the right answers if something happens in the markets where we have travelers, that we really have a program in place to understand how to reach them, how to get in touch with them, that we can really fulfill our duties. And there are great providers out there that we identify and work with and make that happen. So I think, yeah, that's something in international travel that is a must.
Sure. I'll give a quick story on the third point, actually, because it's really prevalent for one that Jay and I have worked on quite recently for a big fashion customer that we've just onboarded on both sides of the Atlantic. In the States, Concur booking engine is really popular. Really fits the bill for most US based clients in terms of its functionality and what is needed. Less so in the UK. It's not quite as popular booking engine as traveling around the UK and Europe often can have a whole different set of complexities and needs. So we've just onboarded a client where they have an Atris booking tool in the UK with us, Concur in the US with Safe Harbors, but brought together in one global intranet with our partner Tripism. So you've got that kind of real one feel, but actually best in market booking tools. And I think I've seen a real appetite for that of customers moving away from that. It all needs to be exactly the same in every country in the world, to more of a nuanced approach for what's best in market. So we see that quite a bit. And then leading on from that, the currency and billing thing. I think the one thing that we really are trying to innovate on is that currency and billing piece. So we've got the recent merger with CT Business Travel for Good Travel Management has now given us opportunities to be able to ticket and bill in euros and in US dollars. So that can help. So if we've got little pockets of spend in other markets, we can quite quickly and easily sweep them up into the centralized UK program. But that's really key. And I always really would stress to anyone looking at building a global program, get your finance guys involved, really understand what that flow needs to look like for payment and invoicing on a local and a global scale. And there'll always need to be a conversation internally about how much of the decision making is in market and how much is global, one size fits all. So that's a bit of a culture thing, bit of a finance and process thing, but really key. Siiri, last one on about data. So talk to me a little bit about how LCC can help bring together global data when a customer is potentially booking with 6, 7, 8 travel management companies under your umbrella.
Yes, this is actually my specialty, because when I started 20 years ago, this was the first project I took on.
Yeah.
I'm glad to report today we've come a long way since then, because we have actually not only do we know the process and have improved that over 20 years of time, but the data collection process, basically all the TMCs are set up in a way that they can easily extract data from their back office system where all the data is sitting. We have defined processes of how this data needs to look, and not ideally, but luckily we have a very good service provider called TripStacks who consolidates the data for us. So basically, we take it from the agencies in a defined process. And for example, it is set up very well with you guys, as well as with other 30 markets. And we can take any market on board. So we define the process with the agency. They extract the data from the back office, send it to a file server, and it is then read from a very professional reporting company and data analytics company, which is called TripStacks. So this is what we have in place today, and something that was really a headache 20 years ago is, of course, today becoming an easier process. It is still about mapping different data sources and so on, but we have over the years defined a very good process to start with, but also then file finishing, and we have tools in place. Of course, AI is helping there to quite an extent to really also identify data gaps, because sometimes that still happens, that something is not transferred properly. So we have the tools in place that sort of cleans the data before it goes into the reporting system, and it then has a very nice display, of course, where you can access the data on a daily basis, and you have a customized set of reports. But of course, the tool also has the possibility to do reports on a customized basis. So if other information is required than what the system is providing today, then we are in a good position to work with TripStacks on facilitating a report that, according to your requirements and your KPIs. Sounds easy,
Fabulous.
huh?
It's simple. That's why we have the legends on the webinar today, right? On that note, we'll move to the second legend, Jay. We're gonna talk real politics when I see you in Frankfurt next week over a beer, no doubt. But we'll keep it travel related today. How does something obviously quite seismic of the election last week, how does that affect travel in your business day to day? Like what happens on the ground?
Something happened last week. Is that what you're suggesting? It's we did see a softening. There was a softening building up to the election. There was a lot of apprehension that impacted corporations and pulling back spend and travel spend. It's too early to tell exactly where it is right now. I think there's still quite a bit of hangover with respect to the election just 1 week ago. There are a lot of people who've more or less jumped over the bridge. There are a lot of people who are jumping for joy. But when it comes to travel itself, we anticipate it will probably pick up. We expect it. I think just even with the stock market right now, if you're watching the stock market, it's doing all kinds of crazy things, increases, and so it's pretty aggressive right now with the stock market. So as a result of the stock market, that will translate to corporates and the corporations and organizations, and we expect that will pick up travel.
Okay, and to backtrack a little bit, obviously you mentioned kind of the longevity of safe harbors. Can you just give us a little bit more about history and all the kind of challenges and successes you've had over the years with safe harbors, Jay?
Are we here all day?
Maybe this could be an extra hour, right?
Well, over the past 40 years, just the industry, the industry changes on a dime. It changes daily. And, just staying ahead of that. That's why I'm so proud of our team. They know how to stay ahead of things, as painful as it is at times. Just staying ahead of technology, joining groups such as Lufthansa City Center. And that's how we have built out our success over the past 40 years. What can we do to bring on the best technology as a result of what our clients are asking for, but also looking ahead. What are other organizations doing that we can really fulfill the support and needs of our clients? And it's really, our team really stays in tune with what our clients are asking and talking about. So with that, we're able to really get a really good idea how to move forward. So, hey, a lot of success. Of course, have we made mistakes? Maybe. But it's one of those things, hey, you have to build and grow and partnering with people such as, good travel management. I look forward to talking more about that as well, because just the fact that it's about culture and building out that culture within a company. That's what we've done over the past 40 years, and that's what we see in our relationship with good travel management as well, and LCC.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it, Jay, that travel, despite technological advances, is based on people. And I think the one way we've had success is that we talk all the time and we give and take. So we have to innovate and do something slightly different to fit with one of your clients. We kind of try our best to do that, and vice versa. And we cement our relationship every now and again in a McDonald's. It is about innovating, because things are quite different. It'd be quite interesting to move on actually to that, Jay, of what firstly travel trends you're seeing in the US, and then kind of how you think a great transatlantic travel program really works, because a lot of our customers, certainly the two biggest spends will be UK, US.
Yeah. So as in every year, not a whole lot of things change, but change itself. things are constantly changing. Obviously, the airlines, the carriers are constantly changing, new policies, new programs, and so on. And one of the biggest things we've seen this year are the rewards programs for individual travelers. And that's been significant. And first of all, making sure that we can get them programmed up in our system so they can make sure they're getting reward points coming their direction for individuals. But also, how do we address it for the companies who have reward programs as well? So, for example, you have airlines such as Southwest. They have a program called the Southwest Business Assist, and Southwest is a big carrier. It's a big carrier in the U.S. market, and which they recently, just over the past few years, got into the GDSs, and so making it much more of a streamlined transaction for our staff and to be able to process, and obviously the betterment of reporting and so on. But where I'm going with that is accessing that particular site to support our travelers, and that's one benefit that we do. We do support that and making sure they get their points and rewards and taking advantage of that. I do think we're unique in that. Shared ride, that has really taken off. We're seeing much more of shared services, the Ubers of the world, Lyft in the U.S. market, as opposed to rental cars. Now, rental cars still are strong, but it's still, share has really taken off to the point that you really go into a meeting. What do you need your car for? You need your car to get to that meeting. And are you going to be using it all day? Probably not. It's going to be sitting in the parking lot. So the philosophy, especially with younger travelers, it's much more prevalent to use shared services. And then getting through the airports in the U.S. market, we have TSA pre-check. It's all about getting through as fast as you can. So you have TSA pre-check, but on top of that, you have Clear. And Clear is a product where you pre-register for it, and it's a background check. And if you haven't used it, you can go up to a kiosk, and it either looks at your eyes or your fingerprints, and you can bypass even the TSA pre-check, and you can get through the lines very, very quickly. So I kind of call it my armor. I'm fully armed with I have all my armor on. I can go through as quickly as I can, but that's a big trend as well, is making sure you can get through the lines quickly.
And that's fascinating. And I just the penny dropped a little bit there for me, Jay. Actually, that if we think of all the LCC members that span over 100 countries, we could ask each member that question, and I'd learn something different that I didn't know. And I think that's what the key is about having local experts in market. They will just understand, on the ground, what the trends are, what the challenges are, better than anybody else. So yeah, no, that's really interesting. And in terms of our collaboration, and in terms of what you think makes a great transatlantic program, we probably share 30 customers now. What do you think we've learned over the various projects we've worked on, and what do you think makes a good transatlantic travel program?
Yeah, it's a great question, Laura. I think what it is, it comes down to, we have very similar processes, and the fact that, I'll back up. The key thing that we learned, and I think the key thing going into this is culture. I think we have very, very similar cultures when it comes to service. Our clients are first, and we make sure that they're going to get the very best levels of service, and we're going to track it. We're going to make sure that they are getting these levels of service, and we're going to track exactly how they're getting that, and we're able to report back and saying, and that what we use Net Promoter Score, and so we have very high ratings, and we make sure that translates as well with respect to good travel management. So it all circles back to culture, making sure that it's a good fit, and we want to know that our clients are being taken care of well, and just as you do as well, you want to know your clients are being taken care of at the highest level. So I think that's by far the greatest piece. Beyond that, we talk technologies. We talk the technologies, Tripism, seamless technologies for data, for reporting, to be able to support the clients. quickly and easily. Again, it all comes down to speed. How fast can we address issues and needs? And that's one thing I'm very, very proud about of our staff is how quickly they respond. We're right on it. And that's what we see in good travel management as well. And the fact that we have those seamless technologies and attention and process is by far it's superior. And the technology driven. We know where you are, what you're doing with your technology. We also have certain aspects of technology that we know are very, very important to our clients here in the U.S., but also now expanding globally. And that is one key thing that we look to see how it works on both sides of the pond. You want to call it that. Yeah. And then responsiveness is just, we know you're going to get it done. We get it done. So when the rubber hits the road, we're there.
Fabulous. Conscious of time, obviously that 45 minutes whisked by particularly quickly. I'm going to wrap up and just finish on some questions and then circle back into the top tips. So from Megan, how do you face sustainability challenges within a global travel program? So for me, I think the real key piece of that is data. So if you have a global travel program, we can quite quickly and easily aggregate your CO2 emission data per market into one central spot. We've just done this for one of our biggest UK clients, and it saved them 1 FTE in work. There was one lady in London aggregating the data from all the area markets, and we brought that together and consolidated that. So she's delighted that she can actually start making sense of the data and how they want to steer the program with it. So better use of her time. So I think the key piece is data here. Understand what CO2 data framework you want to work to and report against, and consolidate that with us in one global reporting platform. So I think that's really clear. Another webinar on how to build a sustainable travel program is available on our website if you want to go and check that one out. Any more questions from anyone? Is Clear available via GDS? I think that's a question to Jay or Siiri. Do you want to pick that one up?
Happy to. Clear is not available through the GDS. It's more or less a direct program that you purchase. It is a fee program. I think a lot of credit card companies offer it as a perk or benefit that you can get it either free or at a reduced rate. So it is not available through the GDS. Yeah.
Great, good stuff. And I think we have, there we go. Well done, marketing team, straight on the ball. So we'll finish. I just wanted to say thank you again to Jay and to Siiri. What we'll do is you'll get the usual digital goodie back in terms of the top 5 tips on how to build a sustainable travel program. With that will come my details if you want to reach out and talk global travel. And I lean on Jay and Siiri pretty much on a weekly basis to really help us chisel out the right solution for our customers, because we do configure global travel in many ways. But until then, thanks so much for joining us and staying with us. We've got everyone still on there, so that's great. And Siiri, Jay, I look forward to seeing you in Frankfurt next week.
Yes.
Thanks ever so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.